Start recording. Oh, never mind, it didn't. Okay. So this is point slope form. It's kind of just like slope intercept form. Like this has times when it's very helpful. But it's just like slope intercept form, standard form. It's just a third way to write equations. The x1 and y1 right here, that's just any ordered pair that's on the line. So example 1, do y'all remember those problems like in our last test where we would say like the point goes through this line and it has a slope of whatever, write an equation for it? Do y'all remember that? What would we have to figure out when we were writing an equation from that? B. Like if it gave you a point on the line and it also gave you the slope, what would you have to figure out in order to write an equation? B. You would have to, because you always needed the slope and you needed the y-intercept in order to be able to write an equation. Now, since we have this form, you don't have to figure out what B is. We can write an equation without knowing that, which is nice. So we have the point -2, 5. That we're going to use that for our x1 and y1. So x1 is going to be -2. Y1 is going to be 5. And then m, that's our slope, our m is -6. So all you're going to do is you're going to plug those into the formula. And then simplify a little bit. So we don't want to subtract a negative, so you change that to plus. And then this is your answer. You don't have to. So if it says write the equation in point slope form, you see the directions say write an equation in point slope form. This is point slope form. It's good to look at this because you know that the number in front of the parentheses, that's your slope. And then 2, or -2, 5, that's going to be a point on the line. So you can look at this equation and get some useful stuff, just like slope intercept form. You got to remember, this is like a whole line. So think about, like, when I plug in some number for x, I work it out and I get a y. So to get ordered pairs on the line.
Okay. So like, we put in 1 to ordered pairs. And it gives you the way you want to start.
Exactly. Yeah. So, do y'all remember when we had equations in slope-intercept form? What's the first point you always plot? Y-intercept. Remember we said begin with the B? Now you don't have to. We can begin with whatever point they give us. So, our first point is going to be -2, 5. So, and then from there, we can use our slope, -6 over 1. So we go down 6, 1 to the right. But you go from this point that you just put. Down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over 1.
I didn't change stuff. Because this is loyalty. This is fishery.
It's just example 1. Okay, any questions so far?
How hard is it?
Not that hard. The hardest part about it is going to be, we're going to start with equations in point slope form, and we're going to convert it to other forms. Like we're going to go to standard form, and we're going to go to slope intercept form. So it's almost just like rearranging like a literal equation. Okay, so same exact thing. We're going to write the equation in point and slope form. So start by listing out your x1, y1, and m. So what is my x1? And my y1 is 8. And my slope is 5/6. I recommend writing your equation down first, just so you make sure you plug everything in correctly. Pay attention to that. This is subtraction. So we have y minus 8 equals 5/6 times x, and then what goes right here? Plus 2. Yes, I want you to. Yes. So now, when we plot it, remember we're going to plot that point that they give us first. So our first point is going to be -2, 8. So I know this is going to go a little bit off your graph, but it's okay. The problem that a lot of us are having is, you see our slope is 5/6. On this graph, do I have room to go up 5 and then 6 to the right? No. Definitely not. I'm going to be like way up here. Okay? Anybody know something I can do to make this better? Down and then which way?
You could go left.
Yeah. Think it is the opposite for both, but think of it almost like -5 over -6. So down to the left. Yeah, because think about like two negatives. What do they make? Positive. So as long as you put the negative with the numerator and denominator, it's the same. And this is going to go off a little bit too. I'm sorry. Okay, so example 2. In this example, we're going to write each equation in standard form. So if you don't remember, it's written right here, ax plus by equals c. Before we do this, I want to review for a little bit about what standard form is. Standard form is where it has like several different requirements of what it has to be for it to be in standard form. Does anybody remember any of them? Jeremiah? Yes.
Oh, there's no x.
I'm going to put a must be positive because a is the coefficient with x. You're correct that we can't have exponents, but I'm not going to write that down just because that's not going to come up any. Let's not worry about the things that can't be. Let's just worry about the things that it has to be. Carly? Oh, like x has to come first? Yes. Okay, what else? Like it has to be something x plus something y. You can write that. Jeremiah? Oh, like x and y can't be multiplied? You're right. I'm not going to write that down because it's not going to come up, but you're correct. What else? Anthony? A, B, and C can't have common factors.
So that it might be like it's not
Yes. I'm going to put one on here that says X and Y must be on the left. Like on the left side of the equal sign. And there's one more that's really important.
I've seen that
Variable? I mean, you're right. What did you say? It does, but it was what Gabby was saying. We can't have fractions or decimals. Okay, do y'all kind of remember this stuff? It's been a while. That was the very beginning of the second on weeks. So looking at this example, it's already worked out for you. Always the first thing you're going to have to do is distribute, and then work on getting your X and Y on the left and constants on the right. And then you see the very last step, A was negative, so what did they have to do to get rid of the negative? You can either multiply or divide by -1, whichever one you want to do. On the last page, I'm going to start you on this one, and then I want you to finish it. Do not try to get rid of your fractions until after you distribute. So first, I'm going to have y plus 2 equals 7/8 x minus, we're just multiply the numerator, 21/8. Who can tell me how do I get rid of the fractions?
multiply it by 8.
Good. Multiply by what would be the common denominator. Don't forget about this y and the 2. That is 7 times 3. Pretend this is like 3/1, if that helps you.
What's 8 times 2?
16. Which one? I'm sorry. Are there any questions on where this 21/8 came from? All you have to do is multiply the numerator. Pretend this is 7/8 times 3/1. 7 times 3 is 21. 8 times 1 is 8. I think you should be able to finish it from there. Okay, what could you do next? Several different options. Minus 7x, okay. Some people are forgetting x comes first. Okay, so negative 7x plus 8y plus 16 equals negative 21. Okay, what else needs to be done? Okay, so negative 7x plus 8y equals negative 37. And then, Jackson? Either multiply or divide by negative 1, whichever way you think of it. I like to divide personally. So you should get 7x minus 8y equals 37. No, like, to be honest, if I was working this out myself, like, I probably would have subtracted 16 first, and then subtracted 7x.
Oh, that's what I did. I did 16 first because it was easier, and the fact that if you were subtracting 7x, then we'd have 3 over here, and you might get confused.
Yeah. So there's several different ways you could have worked out all of this, but there's only one correct answer. To be honest, I probably worked it out 3 different ways today. But you can do it whatever way makes more sense to you. Yeah. Check yours. Oh. To be honest, the only way to check it really would be to pick a pretend number to plug in for x and solve it for y, and then plug in that same number for x here, and you should get the same answer for y. That's the only way to really check it. Jeremiah?
If you left it as a fraction, like 7, 8, 7 over 8x, you could get 7x minus 35 and 37.
If you left this as a fraction, well, you can't have fractions in your final answer. So no. Okay, the last part. It says, write an equation in slope-intercept form. This is the one you should probably be the most familiar with. What is slope-intercept form?
Y equals mx
plus negative b.
Well, no, just plus b. No negative. The biggest thing you need to focus on here is isolating the y.
Where would you have the 7 to get?
You have fraction in these?
Yes. All those like specific instructions or like specific guidelines you have to follow are just for standard form. You can definitely have fractions in this. So looking at the example that's already worked out, first we distribute. You're always going to do that first. And then just focus on getting this y by itself. So to get the y by itself, you subtract 6. Okay. So in this example, what do I do first? Distribute. Always do that first.
Wait, where do you move the 7 to?
X minus 3. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, you can change it to a mixed number if you want to. Said 3 3/4. So now I need to get the y by itself, so I need to add 7. Jeremiah? It would be. It's just.
Like, would that be like the plus or would be like
Oh, you said plus negative?
plus negative plus negative?
You just don't want to leave your final answer with the plus negative. Yeah, I know. I know what you mean. That would be fine, like, in your work, but you don't want to leave your final answer with something like that.
Oh wait, so that's why it's minus, or minus the 2.
Uh-huh. Big. Yeah. Uh-huh. So this ends up being positive 3 1/4. And the y is by itself. We have mx plus b. So what's our slope in this?
Negative 3 over 4.
Negative 3/4. And our y-intercept is 3 1/4.
Where did you get 3/4 from?
Right here?
Yeah.
I changed 15/4 to a mixed number.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Uh-huh.
Wouldn't it still be 3/4?
3 3/4 plus 7 is 3 1/4.
Because it would be 7 over 1.
So, look. Right here. So, this is the same as doing 7 minus 3 3/4, right? Because I kept the sides in front of it the same. So, if I make these common denominators, this 7, this is going to be 28 over 4 minus 15 over 4, which is 13 over 4. 4 goes into 13 3 times, and you have 1 left over. Okay, any questions on here? The most important part of this is reading the instructions. Because some of them say put it in standard form. Some of them say put it in slope-intercept form. Some of them say graph it. You have to read. Can we do that? Okay. Alright, y'all can start on your homework.
Really?
No, don't stop recording it. Wait, I want to see something. No, it would take like 20 seconds.
What?
Oh, no, never mind. Stop.